Hello everyone and welcome to 360ed.tv. My name is Chooks and I'll be your show host for today. We've got the pleasure of talking to Judith Hewitson and Daniel Berry from Reality Learning. I'd like them to introduce themselves and give us a little bit about who they are, what they do at Reality Learning. We'll start with Judith.
So I founded Reality Learning quite a long time ago, but the whole time it's been based on working for social impact and social good. So we're a non-for-profit, and that is our whole ethical approach to working with interactive stories and interactive learning and messaging, campaigns, anything that is about increasing people's capacity, working with marginalised people. We work with non-for-profits, government and higher education bodies. We make interactive, immersive, exciting, innovative, wonderful learning assets and courses.
Excellent. I'm Daniel.
Okay, so my name is Daniel Berry. I've been directing virtual reality experiences and augmented reality experiences since 2015, and it started with branded content. And then I kind of discovered the world of e-learning in 2017 and started creating, virtual reality films, volumetric experiences for VR headsets, but for the e-learning space.
Ooh, fascinating. Social impact and now e-learning space and virtual reality. Now, before we begin, I think every learning designer or anybody who works in the learning space has a philosophy or guiding principle. So I'm going to start with you, Daniel. What are some guiding principles or philosophies that you work with that help you in thinking about meaningful learning experiences or how you engage in this immersive learning experience?
Yeah, when it comes to immersive learning experiences, I think, from my personal learning journey, in-person learning has been the best. Mm-hmm. Traveling the world, experiencing new cultures. And so I kind of came from a documentary filmmaker's background. When creating virtual reality experiences, I think there's a lot of power in bringing someone there in person so they can that feeling of presence and that feeling of connection to local communities and cultures, which has a really effective in learning design.
Yeah.
For me, it's the lived experience of people, working alongside their lived experience. And so that too is about stepping into the other person's lives. And then it's about collaborating and creating, like, in a way, new genres of knowledge or cultures. Mm-hmm. So together it's a journey. So we're both filmmakers from back, documentary. So we have, our values are pretty ethical and pretty good.
That is amazing. I think this is a really good question. We're looking at, we're in an age of diversity, equity, and inclusivity. So now, how do you address the accessibility and inclusivity challenges when you're thinking about VR or immersive learning?
So that I think is that, again, when you work alongside people with the lived experience, you actually have to bring them in trust. And so it's like the story is so important. So if we go from a story perspective, what is your story? Who are you? Can you share it? Then that's the thing that gets across any technical exclusivity for the first base, because it's a thread that goes through. And then the technology, we also include different versions so that people don't have to have just one way of accessing. So you can be included regardless of where you come from in the world, because we do work globally. And we just have different avenues, different ways of getting into. You may like to expand on that, Daniel.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for the learning content to be accessible to all learners. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the VR headsets, people aren't comfortable for it. So when we made we did a documentary film in refugee camps in Greece, and when we framed that, we made it for virtual reality, but we also framed it so that it would work as a 2D film as well.
Oh.
So that it would work on computers and mobile.
That's really cool. I think this is a really good way to segue here. We've heard of extended reality, which could be either AR, VR, or MR. Now, how do you find the balance when you're thinking about creating blended content? that cohesive way?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because yeah, we've had VR for a while, and then AR, now it's MR. But really, what you have to look at is what are you trying to achieve, and what tools are available to achieve that. So sometimes maybe a 3D model is going to be the most effective way to learn to be able to inspect a 3D model of machinery or maybe an artifact. That's going to work for AR, right? And then, but that so you can have a 3D object in front of you. You can look at it in all directions. That could also work in VR as well if you want to completely get rid of the AR environment and just be in a place. There's certain types of immersive experiences like virtual reality, where like a 360-degree video is probably the most effective way. You want to be completely immersed in the world. Yeah. So yeah, it's about choosing these different types of immersive formats and figuring out what works for this whatever module it is. And I'll speak a little bit more. I think there's other questions coming up about VR fatigue and everything.
Yeah.
But maybe I can give you an example of that, which is the hubs. Working with hubs, so it's actually accessible on all devices. And we did Narcom's gallery in that, and that's setting up like an artist gallery who was an asylum seeker. And you go in there and it's got all the different technologies that Daniel created in there. We've got the VR, the heavy stuff, if you like, and most immersive. We've got 2D, we've got interactive maps. What else we got in there? We brought it all.
Yeah, it's like a volumetric container that contains all the different aspects. So you can walk around and
treasure box.
Yeah, kind of. But it's an art gallery, right? So it's got art on the walls, but then like a sphere that you walk into, and then you're in the immersive 360-degree film, right? And then you can have friends come in avatars and talk to them in the virtual world. So
with COVID and all changes in evolution in technology, there's a need to blend for blended learning. So now, how have you successfully integrated blended VR with tech solutions with varying degrees of immersion when you're thinking about learning experience?
It's the learning design.
Yes.
And I think that's an open learning design that's experimental and nothing to do with content. So often learning design is like, here's your learning content, put it into some course and come structure. And when you're working with all the different immersive technologies from a range, you need to have the thread being the actual learning design. It's experiential, it's personal, it's got to be engaging, it's got to be, what's the hook in the plot? It's got to have all the things that bring you in. And then doesn't matter which technology you're using, because it's got a streamlined approach and engagement.
Great. I think that's a very important piece there, the hook. How do you get people in and how do you keep them engaged throughout the learning process? I think a question that I'm thinking about is storytelling and narrative. And you both are film directors. Can you discuss your approach to storytelling? I'll start with Daniel. Your approach to storytelling and narrative design within blended reality learning, and how you aim to engage people, and particularly knowledge retention. People keep what they learn.
Yeah, so I'll use Night Becomes Day as an example, kind of to ground the answer to this question. So this is a film that we made in refugee camps with the World Federation of Occupational Therapists. It's advocating for refugees and occupational therapy to help refugees navigate a new life in a new country, right? So of course we have a combination of the 2D traditional e-learning, but then we have immersive modules such as the gallery and then the film. So I'll talk about the film a bit. So when you make an immersive film, you can do things that you can't traditionally do in a 2D film. And a lot of that is being face-to-face and making eye contact with people. So it's this human-to-human connection and breaking of the fourth wall that's very effective in increasing feelings of empathy, right? And it gives you the feeling of being there and walking alongside the refugee. So that's one really effective way.
Just remembering something you mentioned earlier, fatigue.
Fatigue. Yes.
How do you manage that when you're planning and executing a learning experience?
VR fatigue is really real, and I've been trying to solve this problem for a while, because it's almost like when you go scuba diving and you're going to go do something that's going to take a lot of energy, and you put this mask on and you go underwater, and by the end of an hour, you're like exhausted. And that's what VR is for most people. It's like, okay, do I really want to put that thing on right now? And do I really want to do this? And there's a little bit of a barrier to get to that point. So it's about blending in the VR experiences, so they're integrated within other aspects, whether it's like an article or a traditional video, traditional, e-learning modules and quizzes, and then comes the interactive or the immersive experience, and then you put it on, but it doesn't last too long. It won't fatigue you. And I think in the future, with the technology that's coming out next year, the Apple Vision Pro and the Oculus or the Meta Quest 3, this is something that's now you put on the headset and you can see the world around you in really good quality. So you're already in it. And then you can view the 2D content, you can view the 2D articles, the 2D videos, and then seamlessly go into the immersive experience while you're still in the headset. So we're not going to need to take off the headset, put it back on, log in again. It's all going to be seamless, and it's going to be a game changer.
And that's where we are. Right?
That's where we are.
Yeah. Because I think one of the main things is that we forget that learning is about unlearning. Learning is about new attitudes and behavior. And to shift that, you really do need that seamless approach. We need to use all our different assets that we create, whether that's 2D, 3D, 360, who knows? But as long as the users, the people who are learning, feel that they are changing. So we deal a lot with complex issues, as you can gather, with a lot of health, and we work with RMIT Europe, who partner with EIT, Urban Mobility and Community, and the new European Bauhaus. And those programs are about future sustainable cities. And that's about looking differently at the world and where we're going.
Quite fascinating.
So they're really, really important training programs. And so that's the thing of changing your attitudes, changing the way you look at things and perspectives. So we're doing some 360 with that. We're starting to bring along the journey, bringing people in the journey of getting more immersive, more interactive experiences so people can unlearn and start a new generation of thinking.
Excellent. I think that's a really great place to end this conversation. But I'd like to say thank you to Daniel and Judith for being here with us today. We've learned a lot. There's been a lot of insights that you shared. I'm sure people can find you when they go to the reality learning sites to learn more. I hope that as technology evolves, we also evolve as human beings, and hopefully there's an adoption leading to more growth for everyone in the learning space. So thank you again for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.